Salutations, and welcome to another Sunday sermon. I'm Reverend Riff, your host. I hope you all are doing well this Sunday. It is a beautiful Sunday up here in Pittsburgh. Going to do this with y'all, then head over to our buddy JD Mack's house for a little football action. I don't expect it to be a good football day, but I expect the good times will be had nonetheless.
Praise hail and praise Dale.
Kurt Cummings, welcome to the party, pal. Oh man, if you're not following Kurt Cummings, you damn well should be. He's got prime content. And yeah, so today, this is going to be the last one of the, kind of custom Sunday sermons. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take just a couple weeks to finish up season 3. But if you'd like, I could hip you as to what we're going to talk about in season 3. Give you a little preview, because that'll sort of really tie in with what we're talking about today, actually. I know, I have to watch the Bengals beat us, man. I think you guys are going to win today. I don't think it's looking good for us. Stranger things have happened. I'll keep the faith, but I'm also a pragmatist. But yeah, so season 3, we're going to return a little bit to the format of season 1, where every episode will be 2 parts. The first part is going to be our salute to heresy. We're going to pick a famous heretic for each episode and do a little dive into who they were, what their heresy was, and how that actually made the world a better place by, interjecting some different thought. I'm not talking about people who just flat out said there wasn't God. No, that's not fun. We're going to talk about people who created massive schisms within the church through tiny little doctrinal interpretation differences, and I think they were labeled heretics. It's awesome. It's going to be fun. Oh, yeah. Shout out schisms. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with that. So that is gonna be season 3, the first part of each episode. The second part is going to be just kind of a potpourri. I'm gonna go back to telling Bible stories that I think are fun. We've covered dogma. You guys know, I would hope, more than you did when all this started. You feel more confident in your understanding of what they're saying and what's actually there. So we're going to get back to having a little bit more fun with the silly aspects of this book. There's still plenty of crazy shit to talk about. And the first half, we're going to do a salute to heresy, because that's the kind of nonsense we're into around here. So yeah, we're going to start that up. The goal is going to be to have the season basically start up mid-October and run through the end of the year. Because our Christmas special episode, you have no idea what's coming. That's one is already done, and if people don't hate me yet, they will. That's all I'm going to tell you about that episode. The Christmas special episode, trust me, you're going to enjoy it. But enough with this. Thank you for being here, Kurt. Anybody that's lurking, let's dive in, shall we? Let's get going. Oh, there will be a Sunday Halloween sermon. You had better believe it, Barry. We are going to go real hard on witchcraft and devil worship that day. Real hard. Thank you for being here, Barry. Yeah, we're gonna come at them for the neck on that one. I'm looking forward to that one. I just might be in costume for that sermon, because why the fuck not, right? Yes, thanks for being here, Barry. So, all right, let's switch this over here. Hymns and heresy. These were requested by our good friend, Lord Hux. He wanted to know about some of the famous hymns. And, do they hold any water? Is there any actual, truth to the words they're singing? Or are people just singing dumb songs? Well, we're gonna do this. This one is not going to be a one-shot thing, but I picked 3 today. We're going to look at 3 very famous hymns. I would be very surprised if anyone who's ever gone to church doesn't know all 3 of them. And we're going to pick them apart a little bit, and then we're going to launch into some fun, because I've decided to give you guys just a full grab bag this morning, because hymns got me thinking about other stupid shit that people absent-mindedly do at church and don't think about. I knew these hymns. I've known these hymns since I was a child. I know tons of hymns. And it becomes automatic. You learn them at a young age if you go to church a lot, and you sing them, and you don't even think about the words. I've done that with pop songs. I've done that with pop songs that maybe even had some problematic lyrics, but as a kid, when I first heard them, I just thought they were cool. You know, you're 15, you want to be an edgelord, so you listen to these songs, and then you catch yourself singing that song as an adult. Maybe you hadn't heard it in a while, and you go, wait a minute, Jesus, that's awful. Like, I shouldn't sing that. Or, wow, why did I like this song so much? That's really fucked up. Yeah, well, you know, this is kind of like that. But then it got me thinking about, what else do we do that with? Well, I picked, sorry, Catholics, be forewarned, you're in the crosshairs today. Other people will catch my wrath in later episodes, but today I got beef with Catholics. We are going to take on songs, saints, relics, and bullshit. I'm done with all of it. It's time to put this nonsense to bed. So, famous hymn here. Super famous hymn. 10,000 Angels. I have a special connection to this hymn. My mother used to sing this in church. My mother is a very good singer. And I would, feel stirred by the song. Written by Loretta Lynn. Yeah, that Loretta Lynn. And if you don't know Loretta Lynn, I completely agree. If you don't know Loretta Lynn, you should probably disconnect from the stream right now and go educate yourself on Loretta Lynn, because she's far more valuable than anything I'm going to give you. Loretta Lynn, amazing, amazing artist, musician. She wrote this song. Loretta Lynn often walked that very fine line that was walked by many artists of the past in the country genre, where she wrote country songs and she wrote gospel songs. She wrote this one. And I put the lyrics up there. The key part is the chorus. He could have called 10,000 angels to destroy the world and set them free. He could have called 10,000 angels, but he died alone for you and me. And please, I put on these songs like versions of them that you should go check out. Go listen to her sing this song. It is fucking great. But basically this song is talking about Jesus is being bound and taken to be tried and then crucified. And he never fights back. But yet Loretta Lynn is pointing out that that is not just because he was outnumbered and that he was a pacifist, but that truly because he was choosing to sacrifice himself. Because he could have called 10,000 angels to destroy the world and set them free. Which actually, when you think about that, is really heavy. That, they're pushing this guy around, doing the brutal, over-the-top crucifixion of him that they did. And at any point, if you think about the fact that all he had to do is say, I'm done with this, and he was done with it. But does that scripturally check out? Is there any validity to these words that this coal miner's daughter wrote for us? Why, yes, there are. Matthew 26, verses 52, the first half of 53. Peter had pulled out his sword when they came to arrest Jesus, and he sliced the ear off one of the guards. I don't know why he chose the ear. It seems weird. But he sliced the guy's ear off. Jesus picks the ear up and puts it back on the guy and heals it. He heals the guys that are coming to arrest him. I mean, we've talked about it. Jesus is kind of a good guy. He says, put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Gun rights activists, are you listening? People who love guns and think they should just be on every playground in America, are you listening? Are you not aware that I can call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? For those of you scoring at home, a legion was generally thought to be about 1,000 soldiers. But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way? All right, there's a lot to unpack there. But basically, Jesus just said, what are you doing with your stupid sword, Peter? Nobody cares about your sword. If I really didn't want to do this, Dad would send 12,000 angels. Loretta did 10 because it sings better. And they would burn this motherfucker down. Like, I'm a willing participant here. How would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way? It almost seems like it's out of his hands. Like, I'm not, he's kind of saying, because if you remember before this, the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prays to God, is there any other way we can do this? Is there any other way that we can still save all the people? Because I'm totally into saving all the people.
Praise Dale.
But I really don't want to get crucified. That really seems like a bad deal for me. And apparently he prays so hard that he sweats blood. This is Jesus' most intense. He begs God, take this cup from me, he says. Jesus does not want to do this, but he is willing to do this. And I think that's an important distinction. And then that verse right there, but then how would the scriptures be fulfilled? Almost like he's saying, look, I got no choice in this. They prophesied that the lamb would come and be slaughtered, and I got to do it. He sweated blood, man. I don't know. I guess... I have a feeling if I knew what was coming, and theoretically he knew what was coming, I'd probably sweat blood too. So our ruling on this one, boom, this is JC approved. This song is totally canonical. It makes all the sense, checks the boxes. Good job, Loretta Lynn. We can sing this song confidently knowing that we are not singing nonsense. So, 10,000 Angels gets our stamp of approval. I'll Fly Away. I'm not going to pretend I don't love this fucking song. I put that you should listen to the Alison Krauss version. I forget who else is with her on it. It's from the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack. And they play the little banjo, little mandolin, and this song lends itself to some absolutely amazing bluegrass throwdowns. I have seen it done by secular bluegrass artists. I have seen it done in churches that actually knew how to have a little fun. This is a fun song. So please know that I am coming from a place of I love this song. Some glad morning. When this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. You get the point. This song, obviously, is to mean the rapture. They're talking about when Christ comes back, the end times, everybody's going to fly off to heaven, the believers are rescued, and he's going to bring down his judgment, a baptism in fire for everyone still living on earth. We got to that in Revelation. You remember all that, right? Is there any... That's such a good point, Mary, that if there's... Oh, good. That's such a good point. If there's 12,000 of the scary angels, not the handsome, biblical, lusty angels, then yeah, 12,000 of those motherfuckers, that sounds absolutely nightmare. Nightmare fuel. Yeah, so he's obviously talking about the rapture, right? Well, clearly there's something in the Bible that would say that you couldn't just make this song up, that everybody's just going to fly away. It's not like the rapture is bullshit. 1 Thessalonians 4, 16, 17. The favorite text, without doubt, of any person who is a rapture fan. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a cry of command, and with the voice of the archangel, and with a sound of the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will always be with the Lord. That seems pretty cut and dry, right? We're going to be caught up together in the air. That sure sounds like flying away, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like. Steamy Jesus says, hold on there. Not so darn fast. Why? What could it be? I'll tell you what it is. It's people that don't know how to translate Greek. The rapture was invented by John Nelson Darby in the 1830s. I want you to think about that. The 1830s. 1,800 years after Jesus died, 1,600 years after his religion had truly taken hold and started to grow, they then decided, wait. At the end, everybody flies away. The idea had never been a part of Christian beliefs until the 1830s. America is older than the rapture, folks. Breathe that in. This beef Wellington of a man just decided that he knew more than everybody else over the last 18 centuries that had been studying the life of Christ. Why? Why did he think that? Because he couldn't translate Greek and he had an agenda. He did have some beefy sideburns. They were nice. So, see, the Greek word that is used when they were translating this text was apenthesis, which means to gather together for a reception of dignitaries. Basically, when a dignitary was coming to a town and the local townspeople wanted to make sure that he knew that he was embraced by the people, they would go out of the city and meet him before he got there and escort him into the city, singing his praises loudly when they walked into the city. This was a very formal thing. The Greek Christians would have known exactly what Paul was talking about. So he talks about when Christ is coming back, the Christians here on earth are going to go greet him. They're going to welcome him back to earth, because the whole thing is not about flying away to heaven to get away from earth, because if you remember from our story on Revelation, Jesus is bringing heaven to earth. For 1,000 years, he's going to bring the kingdom down and drop it in the middle of the desert where our boy Minution was. You remember all this, probably. The passage from Thessalonians also contains the Greek word hapazo, which is often translated by people with an agenda to mean abruptly snatch up or steal. It could be used in that way, which is why people have claimed that they're going to fly away. They're just going to be caught up into the air with no, knowledge of it themselves. Jesus is just going to call them home. Except for most translations mean gathering in joy. So if you read it the correct way, Paul was using poetic language to talk about the glory of Christ when he comes back. That the Christians would greet Jesus and welcome him back and proclaim his glory to everybody else. Like, hey, look, he's back. Our buddy Jesus is back. We told you he was coming back. And he's going to set up his kingdom here. No one's flying the fuck away. Until this 19th century Irish preacher decided that people were flying away. Everybody went with it. No fucking idea why. We call this malarkey, all right? Gets the Joe Biden malarkey stamp. All right, the old rugged cross. Again, I feel like everybody knows this song. If you don't, and you would like to listen to it for the first time, I highly recommend listening to the Gaither Vocal Band's version. It's just beautiful, the harmonies those gentlemen create. It's a lovely song. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross, where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross, till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross, and exchange it someday for a crown. I mean, how great are those lyrics, right? He's just really into it. Let me tell you how dumb those lyrics are. The cross is a prop that Christians use when they completely miss the fucking point. It doesn't matter that Jesus got crucified. He could have been blasted on a rocket into space. He could have been stoned. He could have been hung. He could have been drawn, quartered, whatever you want. It didn't matter. How he dies is completely fucking irrelevant. His resurrection is the point. Please stop fetishizing his method of execution. It is the creepiest thing. You go to the churches and they've got Jesus, the Catholics, they love the crucifix with Jesus nailed on it. Christians at least take Jesus off the cross, but they fetishize the cross. Yeah, there should be another schism. Stop using the cross. If you were going to use any symbol to memorialize Christ, an empty tomb would be the correct symbol. The empty tomb is the fucking point of Christianity. If he dies and stays dead, there's no point. There's no point. He has to come back to life. That's what you celebrate. That's what you should be overwhelmed about. That's what you should cling to. Not the damn cross. So, like, it's ridiculous. The way people sit there and sing about the cross, oh, the cross, the cross, the cross, fuck the cross, the tomb, the empty tomb, that's the goddamn point. This song is Joe Biden level malarkey. We're not dealing with it. Stop singing this stupid song. All right, so let's take a minute and let me yell about some other things. So, I grew up in a non-Catholic household. So we didn't do saints, we didn't do relics. It wasn't till I got older that I learned about this crazy practice, which to anyone who's not Catholic, it just immediately screams idolatry. If you've been raised in any form of religious household that had a Bible basis, the idea of praying to someone who isn't God doesn't make any sense. Just like confession to priests doesn't make sense to anybody who's not Catholic. All of those things seem like the Bible pretty clearly spells out that you can't do them, that it's not okay. And they, not only are they not necessary, but that they're absolutely wrong. But yet Catholics twist this because they have never let the Bible get in the way of making bank. It is just stone cold fact. Get mad. I don't fucking care. From indulgences to saint veneration and worship to fucking relics and all of that, the tourism of it. The Catholic Church is a fucking business. And their business is selling you hope. And the way they sell you that hope at a higher price is with tangible bullshit that they can control. Because praying to Jesus is free. Asking God to help you out is free. Confessing your sins is free. The Catholics have decided they don't fucking like that. Because how will they make enough money to overpower governments and rule the world? I'll tell you. We can't, the 3-in-1 thing, there's been a lot of tangents about that. That's something that there's open room for debate. This stuff, there really isn't. In the Bible, it clearly states, there is one God and one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus. That doesn't really seem like there's a lot of room for interpretation there. Then in Hebrews, Paul wrote, he is able to save completely those who come to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them. Notice he doesn't mention anyone else. But yet Catholics will still pray to St. Anthony because they can't find their keys. And they'll go call Christ's mom and say, hey, Jesus isn't listening to me. Can you tell your kid I really need some help over here? Ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. Where do they get off coming up with this nonsense? Well, in the late 3rd century is where it started. And it started to pick up steam. And now there is a saint for everything. There is a patron saint of television. Because in the 1960s, she was too sick to go to Mass and claimed that she could watch the Mass by closing her eyes. And supposedly gave a detailed account of what the Mass was. And so she became the patron saint of television. That's real. This is insane and it's ridiculous. Okay, so like, just stop. So there's the text I was talking about. So let's move over here. Let's talk a little more. These I'm going to give you. These are texts that I'm going to show here that Catholics use to try to justify. These are the most common ones that the Catholic Church will use to try to justify saint worship. This is a story about Elisha. You know. Not Elijah, Elisha. Often confused. Not the same guy. And Elisha died and was buried. As we remembered, right there, that's a hint that they're different because Elijah never died. Now, the Moabite raiders used to come into the land every spring. Once, as the Israelites were burying a man, suddenly they saw a band of raiders. So they threw the man's body into Elisha's tomb. And as soon as his body touched the bones of Elisha, the man was revived and stood up on his feet. So they tossed a guy. If you have to understand, tombs at the time were basically caves hewn out of rock. And they would just kind of put bodies in there. They'd wrap them up best as they could and put them in there. So Elijah's been dead. His bones are sitting inside. They're taking this guy down and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to tuck him into the kind of catacomb-like thing. And instead, exactly, they yeet this guy's body in there. It happens to touch Elijah's bones. And he's revived and stands up on his feet. So clearly, This means that, saints have powers. First of all, we're not even going to get into this today, but there is literally no definition anywhere in the Bible about what makes you a saint. God refers to saints. He doesn't ever give you a criteria for picking them or identifying them. The Catholic Church made that entire process up themselves so that they control who becomes a saint. They can assign them to an area that they need to raise money in, and that's how it works. Don't let anyone tell you different, because they're lying. But clearly, this was important, right? This guy's body gets tossed in, touches Elijah's bones, he's back to life. So clearly they took every other person that died back there and touched the bones with them, right? Because why would you not? Clearly, this is a super important thing, and we're going to get a lot of follow-up text right after this, right? I present to you the very next verse in the Bible. Hazael, king of Aram, oppressed Israel throughout the reign of Jehoaz. For something that seems so crushingly important, the very next verse, or ever again is it mentioned. Never mentioned again. Now, if there was something to the fact that touching Elijah's bones brought you back to life, are you telling me that there wouldn't be military expeditions to go get these bones and weaponize them? Elijah's Zombie Army is a great band name. You guys can be in it with me. I love it. But seriously, this right here, it's a non-thing. It's like a weird nonsense story. This story is way more about showing you how badass Elisha is than it is about proving that, you should totally go use the saints' bodies and stuff for basically necromancy. Okay? Let's call it what it is. When you use death in magic, it's necromancy. Kind of specifically forbidden. Specifically forbidden. This is a story involving Jesus. This is actually a really cool story. Not everybody knows it. I enjoy it. "Who touched me?" Jesus asks. But they all denied it. "Master," said Peter, "the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus declared, "Someone touched me, for I know that power has gone out from me." Jesus literally feels the energy go out of him. And yes, Barry, the Bible does absolutely specifically prohibit necromancy in the Old Testament. It by name, they prohibit necromancy. It's not one of those gray areas like some things that people like to argue about. We know what we're talking about. But yeah, necromancy, that's a firm no. It's in one of my earlier sermons where we talk about magic and whatnot. When Saul goes and has a woman conjure Samuel's ghost. And it's like, the Bible's like, this is fairly not kosher, but we're going to go with it. Yeah. But so Jesus could feel the power. Somebody touched him and was healed. And he could feel the energy come out of him, which I think is kind of cool. Makes him feel more Super Saiyan. Then the woman, seeing that she could not escape notice, came trembling and fell down before him. In the presence of all the people, she explained why she had touched him and how she had immediately been healed. What we didn't read earlier is this woman had a bleeding problem. Yeah, Jesus needs a mana potion now. It's like, I have a feeling Jesus is more like the Fable thing. His mana just naturally starts to go back up, But yeah, this woman had a bleeding problem, a feminine bleeding problem. Thankfully, the Bible doesn't get more specific than that. Just, that she had this problem and that no doctors had been able to figure it out. Nobody had been able to figure it out. I think it's important that this story is most touchingly told in Luke, as Luke was a doctor. So Luke would have been very impressed with this whole thing, understanding that medical arts and medical science had failed this woman. And so, she came. Jesus is in a crowd of people. He had just preached a banger of a sermon, and the disciples are trying to keep him off. It's like a rock star thing. Jesus is trying to get through the crowd, and somebody touches his robe, and he feels energy leave his body, and the woman is now healed. So the woman, seeing that she could not escape notice, came trembling and fell down before him. In the presence of all the people, she explained why she had touched him and how she had immediately been healed. So clearly, what's going to happen next is Jesus is going to explain that, yes, Even his clothes have magical powers, and you should definitely search the earth for any artifact he ever touched ever and make people come pray to it and pay money to touch it, because that's clearly how you heal people, right? I mean, Jesus is about to drop this bombshell of knowledge, right? Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." Yeah, one true cross. Exactly. So it wasn't touching her cloak, the cloak at all. It was the fact that she believed that touching the cloak would work. But again, it was the faith, not the magical cloak, not even getting near him. How do we know this? There's the other instance where a woman just asked Jesus to heal her. He responds kind of brutally that, dogs don't eat before the family. And she said the dogs still get crumbs. Jesus goes, "Ha ha, good one, you're healed because of your faith." And he never touches her. She never touches anything. She just goes, and does what you're supposed to do, which is go directly to Jesus, and he heals her because she believes that he can. It's almost like a placebo effect that works. However you want to look at it. Oh, are we on a Twitch ad? Motherfucker. I didn't know they were going to hit you with that. So, all right. So, yeah, Jesus, I mean, it's crazy talk. You don't need to touch the relic or the artifact. It's the faith that heals you. But Catholics, well, all right, Barry. But Catholics, they don't like that because you can't make money on faith. It's a lot harder to sell people faith than it is to say, "I have a piece of the cross over here. Come touch it." Well, sometimes they go with shit that's way weirder than, "Oh, I have a piece of the cross over here." Or, "Oh, I have a piece of, the Shroud of Turin." No. They've got some real weird shit. Would you like to learn about it? You're here, so I'm thinking that the answer is yes. First of all, let's talk about the fantastic foreskin. That's right. The fucking foreskin of Christ. The foreskin of destiny, if you will. In Calcutta, Italy, around 1500, the holy prepuce was discovered. That's what they went with. 1500. For those of you that are keeping score at home, that would be approximately 1467 years after Christ died. Yeah, 15, yeah, that's right, Barry. That's right. 1467 years later, to be very specific, they find this. How did they know it was his? Well, yeah. Where had it been? Well, Leo Elatius had told us that the reason no one knew where it was is it had ascended into heaven when Christ did and had become the rings of Saturn. Yep, let that marinate. Then they totally realized how ridiculous that shit was. Because clearly it was not there. It had been in Italy the whole time. Like, oh, makes so much more sense. It was in Italy, right? It was just in Italy. It immediately began performing miracles, like emitting sweet perfume and causing storms. How did they know the foreskin caused storms? No fucking clue. And if a blind person rubbed it on their eyes, they were granted sight. This was so amazing. This was so amazing that in France, another foreskin appeared 400 years later. Because sure it did. I mean, obviously there's the severe implication that at least one, if not both of you are lying, but really to take it to that level, maybe that's how Barry, I want a national treasure, foreskin finders, where they go find the third and final foreskin to create the holy foreskin trinity that will bring about peace on earth. That's what we've been doing wrong all this time. So finally, the Catholic Church decided this was just all a bit too much, even for them, and decreed that anyone who even mentioned it was excommunicated and therefore going to hell. which of course, as we've talked about, is another thing they can't do. But in 1983, the French foreskin disappeared. Like, I don't know if you want to go that it was like an Ocean's 11 type heist, but the French one disappeared 83 years after they found it. No one has mounted a search party. No one is looking for that shit. The one that's in Italy is still there, but it is completely downplayed, and that's the one that's pictured there. It's not... It's one of those things you don't really talk about with your priest for a variety of reasons. Let's just... And so we're going to rate this relic complete Joe Biden malarkey. Just total malarkey. Now, what you're seeing in that fucking amazing artwork there is a real Catholic tradition known as the lactation of Saint Bernard. None of that is made up. Barry, that's exactly what happened, and it's terrifying. That's where it all went wrong. So yes, that is the lactation of Saint Bernard. I just want you to drink that artwork in for a minute. Okay. In the Middle Ages, it seemed vials alleged to contain the breast milk of Mary started popping up everywhere. And I mean everywhere. I'm sure you all remember our homeboy John Calvin, one of the fathers of the Protestant faith. This is what he had to say about this. He said that if Mary had been a cow, she still could not have produced as much milk as there was purported to be the holy milk of Mary. The lactation of St. Bernard tells of a priest who was blasted in the face with milk out of a picture of Mary, which cured his pink eye and gave him the gift of prophecy. I shit you not. I don't know if it was specifically pink eye, but he had some kind of eye infection. And Mary hit him with a money shot of breast milk, and his eye got better, and all of a sudden he could prophesize. Like, I'm not making this up. This is their playbook. I'm just reading it to you. The Shrine of Milk Grotto, just outside of Bethlehem, claims that the white stone that is on the ground there is white because Mary spilled a drop of breast milk on it. And again, I'm not making this up. The church sells ground up stone for women to mix into drinks that will aid them in getting pregnant. And there are pictures all over the grotto of women who have gone there, done this, had their baby, and then sent the picture to the shrine so that people can see that, yes, if you drink this ground up stone that the Virgin Mary allegedly spilled breast milk on 2 millennia ago, yeah. And yeah, the picture isn't accurate. That it actually looks more like Three Stooges comical, which is why it's such an amazing painting. Yes, this is what they're teaching people. I don't even know where to go with this, other than to say it is absolute grade A Joe Biden malarkey. It's just holy breast milk. Holy breast milk. Come on. Come on, Catholics, you're better than that. I think. The boiling blood. This is a fun one. And by fun, I mean absolutely fucking ridiculous. We don't know anything about St. Januarius other than, there's a month. Other than he was an early bishop who was martyred, possibly by Diocletian around 300 CE. So, right when the whole veneration and worshiping of saints really kicked into high gear, that's when this guy was killed, theoretically. Again, nobody knows a lot about him. Yeah. 2 silver jars of blood are kept in a vault in Naples. As you can see, he's holding one of them in its fancy blood vial holder. And they're brought out to a plate and placed near his skull that is coated in silver, I might add, at a few festivals each year. They bring these vials of blood out, they put this silver skull on the fucking table, and then they put these 2 vials of this guy's alleged blood near the skull. Now, if that doesn't sound like a motherfucking witch, like some kind of deep, dark, black magic witchcraft, I don't know what does. These are the people that burned thousands and thousands of women at the stake. They anybody that dared to do anything that seemed, mystic, these guys cracked skulls. But yet every year they take a silver skull and vials of blood and put it next to each other. Why? Well, if the blood doesn't boil, it's an omen of bad things to come. But that is totally not divining or any kind of witchcraft. It's not. Yeah, not anybody, just women. Fair point. Yes, so they put these vials of blood next to this silver skull. If it boils, everybody cheers. If it doesn't boil, that's a bad sign. There have been a few times that it didn't boil, and that has coincided with horrific world events. Adherents claim that the ceremony predicted World War II, a giant earthquake in 1980, and the death of Adam West, because they went off in 2017. Fun note, they did boil before coronavirus, allegedly. So I'm thinking maybe they need recalibrated, because they clearly are fucking off. So, what do we call this? I think you know where we're going. It's malarkey. A crazy woman gives the church head. Look at that. Again, churches in Italy clearly are the best haunted houses. St. Catherine of Siena started having visions of Christ at age 7. A few years later, she pledged her perpetual virginity and said that Jesus had proposed to her. Again, this is a 7-year-old child. You're not lying, Barry. I think everybody saw World War II coming. Especially anybody who had been alive from World War I. But yeah, so the 7-year-old girl starts telling everyone that she sees Christ and that he talks to her. And that he told her that he wants to marry her. Instead of getting this girl help, people rolled with it, let her cut her hair off, and stuck her in a convent. She wasn't done. Again, keep in mind, this girl was 7. She claimed that Jesus gave her his foreskin to wear as a ring. Yes, only she could see the ring. She would go around showing people her fucking ring finger and claiming that Jesus had given his foreskin to her as a magical ring. Now, I tried to find if, the people that had the supposed foreskin at this time claimed bullshit, and it's tough to find. It's almost like the Catholic Church doesn't want to talk about it. But yes, Jesus gave her his fucking foreskin as a promise ring. I'm not making this up. She then claimed that a crucifix blasted her with magic light and she got stigmata from it. This was later in life. Yeah, she claimed that 5 red lasers of energy blasted out of the cross and hit her, and the 5 places they hit her were the 5 wounds of Christ. What are you supposed to do with that? What are you supposed to do with that? It gets better. You think that's the best part of her story? No, it gets better. So she would later die, as most people do, and she died in Rome. And Rome decided that they were going to keep her. They were going to keep her body because her body, she might be a saint. All this crazy stuff she had claimed, the stigmata, all that. Rome decided they were keeping her. So, clearly, they're going to keep the body. But the Christians in Siena, her hometown, knew that she needed to be back at her church. Why am I telling you this? Because her severed head was smuggled back to her hometown of Siena from Rome in a paper bag. And the head magically turned into rose petals whenever someone checked the bag until it got back to Siena, where it's been on display and making the church money ever since. That's it pictured right there. That head apparently would turn into flower petals every time someone looked in the bag to make sure they weren't smuggling a head. Yeah, Barry, I'm inclined to agree. And if someone's sexually abusing you as a child, a really great way to get out of that is to be like, Jesus said that only he's allowed to touch me. Yeah, like, maybe this diddling thing with the Catholic Church goes back way fucking further than, Boston in the 1950s. Malarkey. If that's her head, it did not turn into fucking flower petals. It just didn't. You know that. I know that. Stop. Just stop. St. Valentine's skull. Maybe. Because, there is a skull there. So, it's got to be something, right? Who is St. Valentine? Everybody must know him. Yeah, nobody really knows shit about him. Go ahead. Look up St. Valentine. I challenge you to try to find out something. There's at least 3 of them. And there are over 10 churches that claim to have a piece of one of the 3. So, we don't really know why this guy is attached to literally anything. Numerous legends associate him with Valentine's Day on February 14th, but in all likelihood, it was Chaucer's fault. How was it Chaucer's fault? I'll tell you. Everybody knows him from the Canterbury Tales, wildly successful, changed the way English literature happened, blah, 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 blah. He also was a batshit crazy, and fancied himself a scientist in the way that people that tell you to take ivermectin for COVID fancy themselves scientists. He decided that everything in Earth, this guy's like the original fucking creator of intelligent design. Chaucer thought that everything was working in this like really delicate balance, and that God had set it all up, and that everything happened in certain sequences to make other things possible, and that God had done all of this. So he decided that he wrote this poem called The Parliament of the Fowls, and in it he claims that all birds on Earth get together on February 14th and mate, and that's why all the springtime brings all the baby birds. Chaucer wrote that. The poem was popular, and that is believed to be more than likely a huge factor in February 14th becoming associated with love, and somehow St. Valentine got tied into that. We really don't know how. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Rome's Basilica di Santa Maria in Cosmedian has the most compelling case for having a real skull, because as Barry pointed out, they put a label on it. You can't argue with that. It has a label that says it's St. Valentine's skulls. Did the other ones label their skulls? I don't think they did. So clearly, this skull is the real deal. If you like to visit that shrine, you have to make sure to keep your shoulders and knees covered, because the church also houses the mouth of truth. Because if it makes dollars, it makes sense to the Roman Catholic Church. What is the mouth of truth? The mouth of truth is a pagan artifact. You can Google it online. It's kind of cool looking. It is a giant stone that's in a circle, and it has a very crude face carved on it. And there's an opening where the mouth is. And you would come and speak you would put your hand into the mouth, and then you would answer questions or speak. And it was rumored that if you told a lie while your hand was in the mouth, an invisible swordsman would cut your hand off. Now, we don't know if this was used as basically like a kind of a psychological tactic with almost like a lie detector test, and that perhaps it was mounted on a wall with a hidden swordsman behind it, and if the king didn't like what you were saying, he could give a signal and they would chop your hand off, and everyone would then believe that you had been lying because the mouth of truth bit your hand off. We're not sure exactly how it was implemented, but we know that it was pagan. It's definitely not Christian, but the Catholics have definitely kept it on display at that church so that you can pay to see it, because, again, that's all they're really worried about. Yeah, you can buy souvenir coverings. It's all malarkey. Malarkey. So, I promised you bullshit. I will now give you bullshit. As in the origin of the word bullshit. This is just for fun, because I learned it in my research this week. Don't judge me. My wormholes for studying this stuff go all over the place. Now, many people erroneously believe that when something is referred to as bullshit, the intent is to equate whatever you're referencing to male bovine excrement. That is not the case. Not a bit. What is the case, Riff? Glad you asked. The French had the word boule. That meant to lie or deceive. This morphed into the English word bull, of which one of the meanings is insincere, trifling, or deceptive talk. So, bull. It's insincere, trifling. It's not lost on me either that the English, who have always had, shall we say, a contentious relationship at best with the Pope, a papal bull is, means the Pope said it, so it's absolutely immutable. You can't argue with it. Well, isn't it kind of funny that the English word that they use for the same thing means insincere, trifling, or deceptive talk? I found that to be interesting. So bullshit is actually a contraction of bull, lies, and shit, which is to imply that your lies are so obvious I can smell them. That is why you call something bullshit. Think about it. If you called something bullshit from the time that the phrase came, male bovine excrement actually was kind of valuable. Jethro Tull had, showed that you could fertilize the fields with excrement, so bullshit was not a completely throwaway thing. But bullshit, yeah, nobody needs it. I will have to check out this Very Bad Words podcast because I am also interested in the reasons we swear. So that was my little run through today of saints, songs, and bullshit. I hope you had fun because, yeah, I don't hate Catholics by any stretch of the imagination. There's as many good people there as there are anywhere else. There's good people all over the world with strange beliefs. But come on. The saints thing, the fucking, all of that other stuff, they claim it's a way to try to bring you closer to God. You don't need that. What it is a way to separate you from your money that's outside of your tithing. They still want you to give them their 10% tithe, but they decided they need to also have the novelty items. Don't fall for it. Don't get messed up with it. Because if you're really a true believer, you shouldn't be praying to saints and all that stuff anyway. You might be really pissing God off. So just think about that. Because we don't want you to piss God off. We never want to do that. Also, we added this one. Just because that's fun. So thank you for being here this week, guys. It was a good time. As I said, we're not going to do one next week. We'll be off for a couple weeks. So we're going to be off for a couple weeks. And then we will come back. We will kick off season 3. Like I said, probably start the week before Halloween, I think is the goal. The Sunday before Halloween, we will kick off season 3. And we're going to run right through to Christmas with the Christmas Spectacular. And I just don't even know. Oh, thank you very much, Barry. I will check that out. So thanks for being here this week, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. I hope this made you laugh, and maybe you even learned something. But just go out. If you need to talk to God, do it directly. Intercessors will do you no good. We've all played the telephone game. They're going to get the message wrong. Maybe that's what's going wrong. 1.3 billion Catholics are praying to freaking saints who don't even speak the same language as them. And it's getting all jumbled. So God's answering prayers. And, people are getting 12-inch pianists instead of what they really wanted. So, so everybody, have a great Sunday. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back in a couple weeks to kick off season 3. I hope you enjoyed us. It's going to be ridiculous. Take care, everybody, and happy Sunday.